Wrestling fans, are you ready? For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble!
And now, please welcome at this time your hosts, Graham GSM Matthews and RJ Marceau. You're listening to the next era of wrestling radio. This is WrestleRant Radio.
What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant Radio here today for Thursday, February 27, 2025, live here in 2025 on a Thursday. You just saw our all-new intro, not for the show, just for the streams. I'm testing some things out here alongside Mr. Marceau, who was already in the chat. He's a double-duty guy, okay? He pops up in the chat, he pops up here on the show, and this week, he's not in the corner. He's right next to me, as he always is. Mr. Marceau, the number one draft pick for Vince McMahon's new wrestling promotion. What's going on, brother?
I'm doing good, yeah. I like the little stream intro. Like I said, I was doing a little back and forth when we were getting the show started here. Like I said, I was waiting for a little fa, two. I don't know, it gave me that vibe. So definitely a nice little stream intro. I like that, and good way to start the stream, I feel like.
I think so as well. Getting that endorsement from Mr. Marceau, always a great thing. If you missed it the other day, streams every Tuesday as well. Hashtag AskGSM. Mr. Marceau making a rare appearance on a Tuesday, popping up at the end of that stream. It was a near 3-hour stream. Would have ended earlier. Had to do a little quote-unquote rap session at the end there. So if you missed that, be sure to check that out. If we get some love in the chat, people checking in today, maybe I'll do a bit of a repeat of that. Last week, Mr. Marceau sang Michelle McCool's theme song, which was great. I think the last week or the week before did an amazing job of that. Maybe we'll run that back again if we get enough support in the chat and the likes. Be sure to like the video. Obviously, hit the bell button as well to be notified every single time we go live here on the channel, including for WrestleRant Radio every single Thursday. If you missed the video every single Thursday, you can also check out the audio version on WrestleRant.com, WrestleRantRadio.com. If you go to WrestleRantRadio.com, all the episodes organized by seasons now, dating back to 2013, and this man's here debut dating back to 2014. So go back and check that out at WrestleRantRadio.com. But the video is available right here on the channel, youtube.com/WrestleRant. Check out the t-shirt store, ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. And, of course, follow us on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant and at _RJ_Marceau. I'm messing up your Twitter handle, Mr. Marceau. I've known you for fucking how many years now, and I'm still messing up your Twitter.
Never changed either. It's never changed. It's always been that. So.
I thought it was at RJ or just at RJ Marceau at some point.
I don't think so. I think it's always been at RJ_.
At RJ_Marceau.
I did just change my profile picture,
after
which I haven't changed in 10 years. But the
12 years.
Been the same.
12 years.
12 years, my bad.
Since you went to WrestleMania last time in New Orleans. Perfect segue, by the way. I'll get to the chat in a little bit. I'll open it up in a second. I get very easily distracted, but I do want to get this out of the way first. Didn't have this in my notes. I actually just remembered. WrestleMania. Next year, WrestleMania 42, emanating live from New Orleans, April 11th, April 12th. Mr. Marceau was at the first New Orleans WrestleMania 12 years ago. That was your first WrestleMania. I did not go to WrestleMania 38. I know you were not there either, but you had an amazing time on Bourbon Street. Do you can still, before we get to the WrestleMania 42 news, do you still consider WrestleMania 30 your favorite Mania that you've been to? Because I know you were at 33 and 35 as well.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think just everything that happened on the show itself, it's just such one of those most memorable shows, and just me being there live. Obviously, I was a huge Daniel Bryan fan, so him winning the Triple Threat was great. Him Triple H starting off the show. The streak, I mean, I really don't think I've ever been anywhere that many people were just like dead silent, and like it was more of a shock than anything else. So overall, I thought it was a good time. The one negative was I wasn't 21 yet, so I mean, if I ever did make it back down there, I'd like to enjoy bourbon a little bit more. But all in all, it was a good time, and it was funny because the Super Bowl was actually played at the Superdome this year. And one of my friends who actually came with me was like, remember the last time we were there? I saw The Undertaker lose, and I just started dying laughing. I was like, that's so true. The last time I was at that stadium, it was literally Undertaker losing the streak.
The Silverdome or the Superdome?
Superdome.
That's what Hogan calls it. He calls it the Silverdome.
The Silverdome, yes. That was a great, I mean, that wasn't even a part of the show, and that was
an amazing intro,
him, Rock, and Hogan.
No, that was fantastic. Still a great show in retrospect, and I know people have talked about, I don't know if it was here on this stream or on Hashtag a couple of weeks ago, how WrestleMania 30 was like a one-match show. I would not say that. I feel like it was the overall vibe of the streak being broken. The match itself sucked. Cena Wyatt, not great, but that Wyatt entrance, still incredible. 12, 11 years later, by next year, it's going to be 12. But fun fact, actually, it was actually at that Mania. Mr. Marceau went to that Mania. A couple of weeks before then, I've said this story before. I think I said this a couple of days ago on a different stream. He came out of the show for the first time. I met him a couple of weeks before that. He came out of the show. We had spring break. Then he came back on the show the next week when I wasn't anticipating it. He's been on ever since. He still sneaks on. I still don't invite him on. He just comes on the show. I don't know. It's weird. And 11 years later. But right before he went to Mania, I don't know if I had his number at that point. I think we just followed each other on Twitter. I probably had his number. I don't remember. But I texted him. I DM'd him. The first DM I ever sent to this man, I slid into his DM saying, have fun at WrestleMania, brother. I'll see you when you get back. Can't wait to hear all about it. That was 11 years ago, and we're still sitting here 11 years later talking all about it. So pretty crazy how time flies, Mr. Marceau.
It doesn't seem like it was 11 years ago, honestly, but, I mean, here we are. I mean, it just makes me feel old, honestly. I hate it. It just makes me feel like an old man, so... It's great to reminisce, but when you say the years out loud, it's like, geez, I'm really that old.
I know, we both are. It's crazy, but that's WrestleMania 42 coming up next year. We have a lot to talk about on the road to WrestleMania 41 coming up in just a few short months. I know it's a little less than 2 months away, but it's going to come quick. We have Elimination Chamber coming up this Saturday, as you can see in the headline for this video. We'll get to that in a little bit. Predictions and preview for that pay-per-view coming up on Saturday night. Before then, though, obviously, Mr. Marceau was in the chat a little bit earlier on, sitting, waiting for Jacob Fatu's music to hit. Alexis also sending in a $5 super chat. Alexis, of course, thank you so much. I appreciate that. She said, you deserve a super chat for that amazing intro. I just put that together like a day or two ago, so that's not just the WrestleRant Radio thing. I'll have that for Hashtag on Tuesdays as well. But thank you for sending that in. WrestleFan13, thanks for joining us. He said, hey, Graham and RJ, how's it going, guys? Doing well, my man. Thank you for joining us. He also asked, hey, Graham, what's your PlayStation gamer tag again? It's WrestleRant3. That's where you can find me on the PS. Are you an Xbox guy or a PS?
I got Xbox. Xbox.
I was going to say, I thought you were an Xbox guy, but I'm only ever really on there playing 2K24 and GM mode, and as soon as I'm done with that, I typically jump off. But I'm trying to play more video games and become more of a video game guy. You're typically just like a Madden guy, right, Mr. Marceau, or do you play something else?
Yeah, lately I've been playing NCAA football and Call of Duty. So
Call of Duty! I forgot you were a Call of Duty guy.
Yeah, just bouncing around.
Was that like the classic KOD, like it's fucking Kiss of
COD?
Death? COD, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I usually play, I got the, I think it's Black Ops 6. I think it's the newest one. I got it through Game Pass. It's like Xbox, you pay like Game Pass.
Yep.
So it's free on there. I mean, free in quotations.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're paying for the monthly Game Pass, but I've been playing that with like my brother-in-law and a couple friends. It's been pretty fun.
Nice. Yeah, no, my brother Jackson has the Game Pass thing. Alexis has that as well. She got an Xbox from her
brother's. She put in the chat Xbox gang. We ride together.
She's constantly on her Xbox. She loves the Xbox. She has Game Pass too, so maybe she'll pop on a Call of Duty one of these days. Fernando also joining in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Fernando. Always great to see you. Anyone else joining live, hit us up in the chat. I'll get to your comments and questions a little bit later on as we talk about all the latest news of the week. Actually, Deep Professor joining in the chat. As I say that, say his name and he appears. I mean, I didn't say his name, but he did pop up in the chat. He said, hey, brother, with a high five emoji. Waving emoji. He said, what do you think who will sell their soul to the final boss? Great question. We're going to get to that a little bit later on. I have a lot to talk about with Mr. Marceau about the final boss. You know how I felt. I went live for about 3 hours last Saturday night, complaining a Cody crybaby right here about the whole Rock nonsense, and I've since calmed down a little bit. I might get heated again towards the end of the stream when we talk about it a little bit later on, but we have some stuff to talk about before we get to the final boss news, so we'll keep you in suspense until then. WrestlingFan13 also said I sent the friend request, so whenever you get a chance, check later. I will. If I know where to go to accept it, I will, and I'll accept it. Thank you, wrestling fan. And Nathaniel Cranshaw said, hey, guys, what if Cena turns heel and joins The Rock? Again, good question. We'll get to that. RJ's already shaking his head. I
don't think that's happening, but we'll flesh it out later.
We'll flesh it out later. There's a lot of different directions that they can go in with this storyline. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But before then, though, also in the headline, not old news at this point, but I feel like a lot of other things have happened since this rumor first broke. I think it was 2 days ago because I talked about it on hashtag. I've already talked about it extensively, so I'll try to, not go into it greatly as in depth. I'll basically ask you, Mr. Marceau. Vince McMahon starting his own wrestling promotion. I know there were some rumors and innuendo, as they say, that started on Conrad Thompson's podcast with Eric Bischoff, and they were kind of going back and forth. They said they heard things. They didn't really explicitly say that it was happening. But, I mean, Conrad, if you listen to the clip, I tried to read the transcript, and it just sounded like gibberish. But I listened to the clip last night, and he was talking about how he had heard some things about Vince hiring people that knew how to shoot wrestling and specifically working with Fox. He very explicitly said Fox because Vince was at the Super Bowl, which that aired on Fox this year, right, Mr. Marceau?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why he was saying that. And obviously Vince knows Fox and Fox executives from their time on SmackDown with WWE and whatnot. And then Sean Ross Sapp later followed up and said there's no real merit to this. I guess he had talked to someone at Fox or Fox people and said, yeah, we're not working with Vince McMahon, let alone on a wrestling promotion. So a lot to this story, maybe not so much at all, but what was your instant reaction when you saw this? Do you call bullshit on it, or do you think there might be some smoke to the fire?
I mean, I don't know if it would be a wrestling company. I keep seeing things that might be like entertainment. I'm not exactly sure what that entails. I mean, technically he considers WWE entertainment, so yeah. I mean, technically it could be. I mean, I'll hold judgment. I'm not rushing it. I'm not saying there's no chance in hell, pun intended, but I also I won't hold my breath that it's actually going to happen. So I think right now I'm probably in the middle. Because it seems like there's kind of conflicting reports that there's some chance, there's no chance. It's wrestling, it's entertainment. Yeah. So Shane might be involved. He's not. Who knows? So right now I'll say I'm 50-50, but I don't think it'll be a wrestling company, if I'm just going to give you a flat-out answer.
No, I completely agree. I had said that the other day as well, where I also feel like we had heard rumblings previously before these rumors kind of started up, saying that maybe it could be an entertainment entity, like you said. I could certainly see something along those lines. I mean, this guy's almost 80 years old. He's not the type of person, it seems like, to just lay back and fucking play golf or something till the day he dies. He wants to be out there starting businesses, potentially ruining businesses. So I don't see it being a wrestling promotion per se. I know people are thinking, oh, we can't stay out of the wrestling bubble type thing. I don't necessarily see that happening. But I totally see it being some sort of entertainment entity. Like you said, though, that did get a lot of people talking. Michael Cole being on the Impulsive podcast, I think last week, calling WWE, they're not pro wrestling anymore. They're just entertainment, which, again, at the end of the day, you can call it whatever the fuck you want. It is still a wrestling company. I mean, they can try to pretend to be whatever they want, Vince being there or not being there. They're still pro wrestling. They are sports entertainment to a certain degree, I get that, but it's still wrestling at the end of the day. It's in the fucking name of the company. But with Vince, I don't think it'd be wrestling. But I did pose this question to people in the chat, which, speaking of which, Stax Toretto joining us, the son of Dominic Toretto, of course, from the Fast and Furious franchise in the chat. He was here during the SmackDown stream on Saturday. He said, hey, y'all. Thank you, Dax, for joining us. Justin, also. Thank you for joining us, saying hi, guys. But I posed this question to people in the chat a couple days ago, Mr. Marceau. If Vince McMahon were to start a wrestling promotion, now, I don't think he is, but if he did, who legitimately could you see joining said promotion that would not care about the optics of aligning with someone who's, had a lawsuit against them or currently has a lawsuit against them and all this other sort of stuff? Could you see anyone actually signing with Vince McMahon, and if so, who?
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on who it is and if people have worked with WWE before that currently don't have a job, I mean, or at like one of the big companies, I think you'd probably entertain the idea. I mean, some of these people, depending on how much longer they have, I feel like you said, even with the allegations and everything going on, you probably be like, hey, this is probably my last run, and maybe if it goes well, I can maybe get back to one of the big companies. So I think more desperation, I mean, or up and comers that, like you said, are looking for a break, but I don't think anyone that's kind of like in the prime of their career would leave either of the big companies that go for this pseudo company, if that's a thing.
There were a couple joke names in the chat the other day, like a Velveteen Dream, a Marty Skrull, Tessa Blanchard, stuff like that. But honestly, while you were talking, I just thought of someone, and it is someone in one of the major companies. Now, I'm not talking about John Cena or fucking CM Punk, obviously not. But someone, honestly, like, I don't think Vince is starting his own wrestling promotion. I can't say that enough. But if he did, you know who I could see leaving either promotion?
I feel like I know who you're going to say right now.
You know who I could see leaving either promotion? The Learning Tree, Chris Jericho.
I was literally going to say Jericho.
He got the Learning Tree thing from Vince himself. Vince was like, he had at one point called himself the Learning Tree, or he called Vince the Learning Tree, not on TV, like in a tweet or something. I think that's where he got the fucking gimmick from, or Pat Patterson or something. That's where he got the nickname from. I know it's an expression, but anyway, I think he was the inspiration for it. He wouldn't say that publicly at this point. But honestly, I could see Jericho at some point after he takes everything he can out of Tony Khan's pocket, which he has over the last fucking 5 years. Brock Lesnar, Nathaniel, another great pick. I could totally see Brock working with Vince. If he had the money, absolutely. That would make sense. But Jericho, Brock, that's your first like double or nothing main event. The first AEW show was Omega and Jericho. It might be Jericho and Lesnar. And,
yeah, I could see it. I mean, I think like Jack Swagger I'd throw in that category.
Oh, yeah.
I could see him.
Yeah.
I could see him as well. But yeah, no, Brock versus Jericho. I mean, book it now, pal.
I could see Jack Swagger being a big Vince loyalist as well. I could totally see that. Richie joining in the chat. Richie, always great to see him, man. Thanks for joining us. He said, what's going on, big dogs? Hello, chat. Big dogs are doing well over here. And Nathaniel had said, would you guys want to see Bayley versus Michael Cole at WrestleMania one day? I think I had my fill of Michael Cole at WrestleMania with him and Jerry Lawler back at WrestleMania 27. So the answer for me is resounding now. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Him versus Lawler with the orange singlet. I've seen enough.
That might be one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time. It's funny because you go back and think about some of the worst WrestleMania matches ever. I know there's some matches that lasted like 60 seconds back in the 80s and the 90s and shit. But some of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time, and I don't think this is a recency bias, literally came in that period from like Mania 26 through like 29, 30, 31 maybe. Like Vince and I'm talking about like Lawler and Cole, Vince and Brett was fucking atrocious.
Yeah.
I feel like that time period had some pretty bad WrestleMania
the Teddy
matches.
Long versus John Laurinaitis from 28, like that mixed, like that random 10-man tag match was terrible. I mean, WrestleMania 29 had to have some really bad matches on it. It wasn't like a terrible match, but like the Shield versus New Age Outlaws and Kane from 30, like that was just such a throwaway. But,
Such a throwaway,
I mean, it didn't last too long, but it was just such a random match.
Yeah, that was such a random match. I mean, I do not envy those days of WrestleMania 27, 29, 32. There was some shit at 32 that wasn't really all that great. Cena and Wyatt was fine. The match wasn't great. It was just really when Cena won that we kind of poked fun at the fact that Bray Wyatt took him about 5 fucking years to recover from that. But that the match itself was fine. Deep Professor had said, or actually Nathaniel had said before that, he had said, I love how Bayley mocks Michael Cole. It's funny. Yeah, we don't need a match. Well, listen, even Rock said to us, not everything has to lead to a match, right?
That's true. The pivot, you don't need a match. Doesn't need a match for it.
The pivot lives on. Deep Professor also said any opinions, rather. And Edge versus Del Rio was okay, Nathaniel said. Yeah, that match was fine. It wasn't bad. It was okay. That opened 27. Deep Professor said before that, any opinions on Dave Meltzer 5-star match ratings? Are you satisfied with those ratings? I've said this a million times. I know RJ agrees. It's only one man's opinion. I do not put any stock in that stuff at all. I think there is some merit to it. There is some credibility. He's been doing this for decades. But people treating that like it's the fucking, it's so sacrilegious and it's the holy grail of wrestling ratings is just fucking dumb. Would you agree with that?
From what I can see, because I am blocked by Dave Meltzer on Twitter, like you said, it's his opinion. I would say he sometimes goes overboard on some of them, but like you said, at the end of the day, it's his opinion. But yeah, I don't see a lot of those because I am blocked on Twitter for some reason.
This man has been on Twitter for well over a decade. The only major wrestling personality he is blocked by, and he didn't even attempt to be. It's not like he talked shit to him or anything. He literally he texted me one day and he goes, "Hey, can you see what Meltzer said and let me know? Because I think I'm blocked by him." I mean, now you can see shit because now you can see blocked people's profiles who just can't interact with them. But yeah, Mr. Marceau, fun fact for you guys, is blocked by Dave Meltzer for some reason. Literally, and he's not the type of person to just tweet at people and just shit at them. That is not his MO, unless it's about EO Sky. He lets his opinion be known about EO Sky. That was last week's episode. Deep cut there. So it's funny that he was blocked by Dave Meltzer. I'm still not over that. Wrestling fans said the most disappointing WrestleMania main event was Randy Orton versus Triple H at Mania 25, given the incredible build-up. Yeah, that match was not good. That was not a good match. The build was great. I mean, Triple H and Orton, they had done that before a few different times, but like Triple H going to his house with his fake wife, Orton's fake wife, and then everything they did leading up to that match was great. The actual match was so fucking disappointing, and it wasn't even because it followed Shawn Michaels and Taker. That match itself just was not good. WrestleMania 25 in general is not an overall great Mania, but that was not a great Mania main event. Nick also joining the chat saying, hey, gang. Nick, great to see you. Thanks for joining us, of course, as always. Nathaniel also said, did you guys like that we had Cena versus Rock at 29? I also don't know if The Rock is wrestling again. I don't either. As far as Cena and Rock, it was garbage. What was your opinion on that match?
I mean, it was just, yeah, I was out on that. I mean, the first year, I was like, okay, just to do it a bit to put Cena over. I mean,
yeah, it made sense. Or no, Rock won the first time.
No, yeah, I know, but like for Rock to come back just to put Cena over, like who cares?
Yeah, who gives a shit? And the actual match was just, it was putrid. Shawn Michaels and Taker should have made event 25. I agree. I mean, it wouldn't have just because there was nothing on the line, but I do agree that would have been perfect to go on last. And then Dax also back. Great to see Dax in the chat. So some news and notes from Raw real quick before we go on to some other stuff with Elimination Chamber and the Rock rant. Not really a rant. I kind of got out of my system a couple days ago. But as far as Raw is concerned, we closed the show with new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, knocking off Bianca Belair and Naomi. And actually an excellent match. I mean, this is probably the best WWE Women's Tag Team title match. And not to say they haven't had good ones, but probably the best women's tag team title match I've seen in this company in years. And they've had some good ones. This one was great. And it was a worthy close to the show. Title change. Liv Morgan adds more gold to her resume. She was already a tag team champion, but in the last year alone, beating Rhea a whole bunch of times, joining Judgment Day, becoming Women's World Champion, winning that Crown Jewel title, whatever that was really worth. But Liv Morgan's done some great stuff, capping off her last year by becoming tag team champion. I thought was the right call. So I want to get your thoughts, Mr. Marceau, on the match itself, the title change, and what this means for everyone involved going forward.
Yeah, I thought, like you said, it was a worthy main event. I thought the match itself was really good. Champions, I don't think the championships were ever in doubt. I think we both thought Liv and Raquel would retain them here because I feel like Bianca's got other things to work on. So I think it was the right decision. Like you said, Liv's had a great year, kind of another title reign here. Naomi, I mean, we assume that she's going with Jade. When Jade eventually comes back, Bianca will probably go for Rhea's belt, and then it just leaves Liv and Raquel defending those tag titles. So I think everyone's got some sort of direction going on. Not that I agree with all of it, but I think we saw this coming, and it was a really good match, and good for Liv and Raquel.
Yeah, it was an expected outcome. I thought the match itself was great. I think this had to happen. We'll get to Elimination Chamber predictions momentarily, but this does have to increase the odds of Bianca Belair winning that Chamber match this weekend, going on to face Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania, with EO Sky probably not involved. But we'll get to that a little bit later on as far as what that Chamber win looks like and what it means for WrestleMania. But I thought it was a great match. I think it was Nathaniel who said in the chat, I thought Jade was appearing on Raw. I think, and Alexis had said that as well before the match was even over. She had thought maybe they lose, because she had mentioned to me, which I completely agree with, but I also can see why they didn't do it. She had said to me, okay, do we see the turn tonight? Do Naomi and Bianca lose, and then Naomi turns on Bianca? And I said, yeah, it's possible, but they might want to save that for a different time. I feel like they could stretch this out. I mean, they've already stretched it out long enough. But they could stretch it out between the title change, which we got on Monday. That was step one. Step 2 is Naomi turning on Bianca. And then step 3 is Jade coming back. Or you kind of switch 2 and 3. Were you surprised to not see Jade on Raw? And when do you think we will see Jade Cargill back? Is it this weekend at Elimination Chamber? Because Bianca and Naomi are both inside the chamber. Or is it next week on SmackDown? And that's when we kind of get the official kickoff to the Jade Cargill attacker storyline.
Yeah, I think it'll be next SmackDown. Or so next week's SmackDown. I think that makes sense because you'll have Bianca seemingly win the chamber. She can do whatever she can on SmackDown, celebrate, going after Rhea. You can kind of have Naomi there. Like I said, maybe she even attacks Bianca, and then you have Jade come back to kind of like take that off. So I think next Friday on SmackDown seems like the best idea for that.
Yeah, I feel like save it till then. I could see Naomi eliminating Bianca potentially from the Chamber to kind of further that feud, and maybe she doesn't turn on her this weekend, but you can kind of plant the seeds for it, and then Jade comes back, and whatever that looks like, Jade versus Naomi, a match that Mr. Marceau, I know he said last week, does not appeal to him at all, but it's very likely a logical match that we're going to be getting at WrestleMania. So I agree with that. Deep Professor had also said a little bit earlier on, I do want to get this out of the way real quick. He had said, what about WrestleMania 35, Triple H and Batista, career versus career? When we were talking about disappointing WrestleMania matches, he said that didn't make any sense because both of them retired from the ring anyway. I mean, Triple H did not. Triple H had a match like a couple of months later with Randy Orton at that Saudi show, and the only reason why he retired when he did, and that it ended up being one of his final matches, was because of the heart surgery. Had that not happened, he probably would have had a proper final match and closed out his career like on an actual, final note. But yeah, I mean, the match itself, I actually liked more than most. I'm not going to sit here and say it was great, but I know you were in the building for it as well, Mr. Marceau, probably partaking in the wave in the crowd that night. Was that one of the more you can't say it was disappointing. I mean, it was Batista and Triple H.
It was what I expected it to be.
It was 2019. I mean, they weren't it's not 2005 anymore,
Yeah, no, it was exactly what I thought it'd be with them both being older. It was just there.
Yeah, it was just there. And that show was fucking long. Mr. Marceau sleeping in his bed comfortably by 12:30. I was still stuck out in the rain with Alexis by 4 a.m. because I'm a dumbass. So that's the lesson there, folks. Never leave MetLife as soon as the show is over because you will get stuck out there if you plan on taking the transit out. So just a heads up on that front. I'm just going through these real quickly. I also thought... So Wrestling Fan had mentioned that the main event at 29 should have been a triple threat with Punk, Rock, and Cena. Yes, it should have been. And I was also reminded of that. I was watching back Cena and Punk, their Raw match that they had February 25th. I watched it with Alexis the other day on the 12-year anniversary of it. Amazing match, one of the best Raw matches in history. And I thought to myself watching the match, one, this is better than Rock and Cena at 29, obviously. And then two, Punk should have been involved in that match. It absolutely should have been a triple threat, and they fucking messed it up. Nathaniel asked, how about Bianca turning heel? It's possible. I don't think that... Are you talking about Bianca turning heel to attack Jade? I don't see that happening. What about you?
I don't see her going heel at all.
Ever.
I mean, she said that she wants to be like a role model for young kids. I mean, yeah. I think she's going to be like Cody and just not go heel.
Well, I think they'll both go heel, just not now.
I don't see it happen. Yeah, I mean, Cody. I mean, how many? I don't know. We'll see. I think
when we get to a point where people,
I would say no for Bianca, especially right now. Like maybe, like I said, she was a great heel in NXT, and like I kind of want her to be a heel. But I mean, I like her babyface work a lot too. So I would keep her babyface for now.
Yeah, no, I would keep her babyface for now. But heel Bianca would be amazing. Alexis even said it in the chat. Bianca turning heel would be amazing, but the problem is she doesn't want to turn. It's ridiculous. Okay, it is ridiculous, and I agree that I would like to see her as a heel. But the opportunity is there to turn Naomi instead, for one. And for two, we're just not at that point yet where it makes sense to turn her heel. I would wait until more people are like booing her. Like when it's like getting Charlotte-esque reactions, which at some point it's bound to happen. Wrestling fans... You mentioned in the chat the other day, Mr. Marceau, are so fickle, they turn on like everyone at some point. I think they will turn on Bianca down the road.
I don't know. I feel like with her, I feel like with Bianca, it's kind of like Cody. Like I said, I mentioned Cody because I feel like they're kind of in the same boat. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like people get sick of Bianca. I feel like she's such a good babyface. It's not like she's like vulnerable or, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like her as a babyface, I don't think she'll get to the point people are booing her. To then turn her heel, unless she's like holding the championship for a long time, which she really never has done. I mean, I don't know. I just don't see her as like a baby face that they'll turn, like the fans will turn on. I don't know. I feel like she's so likable that regardless of what she's doing, I don't see people booing her.
Yeah, that's true. I could see that. I think at some point down the road it's bound to happen. But I don't think it's imminent. To your point, I think people like Bianca enough. I mean, if it hasn't happened by now, she's been in the main roster now for 5 years, and she really hasn't been like overly booed. There were points where people were kind of turning on her towards the end of her title reign a couple of years ago when she was champion for a year, but beyond that, most fans have not really booed her. Ahmed had asked, Ahmed, thank you for joining us. First of all, he said, what's up, guys? Thoughts on corporate CM Punk taking up The Rock's offer? Remember, he did say to Cody a couple of weeks ago, I won't stab you in the back, I will stab you in the front. Great point, Ahmed, but like I said, we're going to get to that in just a moment. I'm going to ask Mr. Marceau about that. The Rock's offer, will Cena take him up on it? Will Cody take him up on it? Will Punk take him up on it? Will Mr. Marceau take him up on it? I don't know. I'm going to ask him about it. It's about to make a run-in. I'll ask him about that in just a couple of minutes. One more thing here before we move on, and I'll get back to the chat after we get to our next point. Nick had mentioned on the point of Bianca and Jade and Naomi, he had said, my theory is Jade returns this weekend. Jade will say Bianca did it. Naomi turns on Bianca and teams up with Jade. I don't see that happening. But what is your thoughts on that?
I don't either. I don't see that happening either.
That would be quite the swerve. Heel Bianca, I mean, we just got done talking about how we don't really think heel Bianca is probably happening right now. But interesting idea. I mean, I think a lot of people want to see Bianca turn. And I was thinking we would get Jade and Bianca in Mania, but that was before the whole Naomi thing happened and the injury angle. At this point, it's not happening. We need Bianca and Jade at some point. I just don't think it's at WrestleMania this year. And Tex had also mentioned WrestleMania 35's main event is the worst main event of wrestling show ever, in my opinion. I wouldn't go quite that far. The women's main event with Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte wasn't great. I wouldn't go the worst main event of all time. Have you seen Hell in the Cell 2019? Have you seen fucking Crown Jewel 2018? I can point you to a lot of different shows from that same calendar year. And Fernando had said, Bianca is winning and will beat Rhea for the championship. Interesting. Okay. All right. We'll get back to some of the other chats a little bit later on. One quick thing, though, before I ask you about The Rock. NXT on Tuesday, I got to mention this. I also caught up on Dynamite before we did this show. So I know what happened on Dynamite. I thought Dynamite was good. I really, really liked NXT on Tuesday. I thought it was a very newsworthy show. A lot of TNA presence on the show. Great hype for Roadblock. My only nitpick is all the great stuff I thought they were saving for Stand and Deliver, their WrestleMania weekend show, which I want to go to, and maybe I'm just complaining because I want to see these matches in person. They're doing it Roadblock instead. In 2 weeks in Madison Square Garden, the theater, they're doing a whole bunch of matches. The Hardys versus Fraxium for the TNA World Tag Team titles. They're doing Obafemi and Moose for the NXT Championship. And they're doing Julia, who was reportedly hurt, by the way, versus Stephanie Vaquer in a title-for-title match. They are stacking that show. I mean, your thoughts on these major matches announced for Roadblock, Mr. Marceau, and what you think their strategy is here in doing all these big matches before we even get to what's supposed to be their biggest show of the year.
No, I mean, these are huge matches. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what they're doing with it, but, I mean, these are huge matches they've announced so far. And, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, not sure exactly why you do Julia versus Stephanie already. I don't know. It seems like a lot. And, like you said, you're going to put both belts on the same person.
Yeah.
I don't love that idea. I mean, Julia just won they both just won their belts. Why would you go right to that? Like you said, you're saying Julia's injured. I'm not quite sure, but
potentially.
I don't know. I think that's just, you're just rushing that. I think that's silly booking unless you really want one of them to go to the main roster tomorrow or when's this show? It's March. If you want someone going to Raw on March 13th, I don't know why else, or whenever that day matches up. Like,
yeah,
it seems like you're rushing it. Okay, so that's the 11th. The next Raw or SmackDown would be the 14th. Like, why else would you do that so quickly?
I mean, Julia must be hurt. I'm thinking Stephanie's winning both belts, and we're getting Stephanie and Jordynne Grace at WrestleMania weekend. But again, doing title for title is a much bigger match than anything Jordynne Grace could be. And I love Jordynne Grace. I think she's great. But I think doing title for title is a main event of a pay-per-view. That's a pay-per-view level match. Why the fuck would you do that on TV and not do it at a pay-per-view? That just seems to ass backwards to me. The Obafemi and Moose thing is funny because they're definitely building to Obafemi versus Trick Williams, which I think it's probably a bigger match. But I think Femi and Moose will be a better match, to be honest with you. Moose has been wrestling for a lot longer, and he's a lot better than Trick. That's just a fact in terms of in-ring work. So doing that one early is funny just because Femi and Williams will probably not be nearly as good. Hardys and Flax.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
yeah.
Like you said, I guess I'm still not over the Julia Vaquer thing still, but
yeah. I mean, I
feel like Julia. I guess my problem is that Julia just won the belt, beating Roxanne, who was like one of the greatest champions they've ever had. She had the title forever. Just for her to drop it a month later. I mean, I mean, regardless of her being injured or not, I still think it'd be silly to have her drop the belt 2 months after winning it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It must be an injury thing, because I'm not sure why you would do that so quickly. Because, again, even regardless of what they have in store for WrestleMania weekend with Jordynne Grace, this is still bigger than anything that you can do at WrestleMania weekend, regardless of who you involve, in my opinion. Because it's title for fucking title. They don't do that often in NXT. The last time they did it was with Keith and Adam Cole, so... At least with the Hardys and Fraxum, at least you could do a series of matches for the TNA tag titles, then the NXT tag titles, and then maybe a rubber match. That I can almost understand. The other ones I'm not quite as happy about. One last thing, people talking about it in the chat, the Intercontinental title match. We saw Braun Breaker. We've seen him interact with a lot of people, actually, in recent weeks. AJ Styles, Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor this week on Raw, Penta right before the Royal Rumble. Are we headed for a multi-man match for that championship in Mania? And if so, does it involve all the people I just mentioned, or would you prefer a singles match, as I probably do?
I think we discussed this. I mean, we don't want too many multi-man matches. I guess you could... Like, if Braun is kind of like intertwined with a few people, so I feel like we'll probably get that. I'd probably like to see that more with a U.S. title, just because I feel like Braun can have a good one-on-one match with someone. But, I mean, like I said, he does have his hand on a lot of cookie jars, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's a multi, but I think he should have a one-on-one, and Shinsuke should have a multi-man match. I mean, I don't think we need multiple, but, I mean, seemingly we might get WrestleMania 2000 all over again.
Yeah, that's worst case scenario. I hope not. I mean, it gets everyone on the card, but just do Balor and Dom instead, which I don't think makes the Mania card. I've said that before. That doesn't make Mania, in my opinion. But you have Breaker just defend against AJ or Penta. I would probably do that. But I could see Ray teaming up with Penta against the New Day. A lot of different matches they could do. We'll get a clearer idea as it gets closer. I feel like they just might be teasing Breaker facing all of these people, but he only ends up facing one. That's my hope, but if it's a multi-man match...
I mean, that's my hope there, too. I don't need to see him. When you said Intercontinental title, I thought you meant Lyra at first. It piqued my interest for a second, but then...
Well, I know Nathaniel had said earlier, Becky and Lyra, I agree, but at this point... I mean, that match would be good. What are we fucking doing, dude? I know you had tweeted about it, and I completely agree. So Becky, just quickly on this front, because we already ranted about it last week with Lyra. She beats Dakota this week for the title, to retain the title. That's fine, the right outcome. But I told you last week, and I didn't want to play devil's advocate, but I was almost okay with Dakota beating Ivy Nile in that number one contenders match if they got more time. They were shortchanged on the Netflix show. Okay, give them more time, twice as much time, of course. And then they only get 7 minutes. Are you fucking kidding? Like, half of that was probably a commercial.
I feel
and then Ivy Nile came out anyway.
I think my biggest problem was, like, the match was fine, but then, like, I tweeted out, who's booking these finishes? My last tweet, who's booking this finish? Like, it's a good match. It's back and forth. Lyra just out of nowhere hits her with the Nightwing. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Beats her 1, 2, 3. It was out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. I think Dakota, they were on the top rope. She like dropped down, literally picked her, hit it 1, 2, 3. I was stunned. And I like both people. I love Lyra. I like Dakota a lot too. But I'm like, what? Oh, okay, that was kind of out of nowhere. But all right. And then Ivy comes out, attacks Dakota, and it's like, but like, why would I want to see Lyra face? Why would I want to see her face her? She just beat Dakota clean.
Mm-hmm.
Twice. Who just beat Ivy Nile clean.
Yep.
So why would I care to see her and Ivy?
Well, someone told me
Ivy and her had the story there. Like, she got thrown out of the Rumble. We kind of thought that's where it was going. But like, I saw people like triple threat.
No,
dude,
I was gonna say
Mania match. No. That is not a Mania match. No, thank you. At this point, the only other person besides Becky I want to see Lyra face is Io, because they're not doing anything else with Io. So besides that, no, thank you. I mean. Lyra and Io, fine. Lyra and Becky, yes, but no triple threat with any other women that's not over. Thank you.
I like Dakota Kai, but why would she get another shot? She lost clean twice to Lyra Valkyria, both times within a matter of minutes. Why would you do that again?
I don't know. I was stunned.
And then Ivy Nile lost clean last week. It's just fucking dumb. Makes no sense. D Professor, Demon Balor versus Braun Breaker. I think Demon's dead. They killed the Demon a couple of years ago. I don't think that's going to happen. I know Dax said he was happy to see Lola Vice back in NXT because we were talking about her last week. I was happy she wasn't in the show because she shakes her ass way too much. I'm just saying. That's just a fact. I know you're a big Lola Vice fan, Mr. Marceau, but the swiveling of the hips, that's all she does on NXT. You know, no complaints on.
Big fan. I like Lola. I wouldn't say she's in my top 5 here, but no, I like her. I mean,
I like Lola. I think she's good. She's shakes a little too much, but she was back on Tuesday, so. It's good to see her, I suppose. Muhammad also joining us. He said, happy Thursday on a Thursday afternoon. I hope you are doing well, man. And same with everyone else here. Yes, Muhammad, hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. Millennial also joining us as well in the chat. Great to see you. So we are on limited time with Mr. Marceau, so we'll get to this stuff now. The Rock's offer to Cody Rhodes. Last Friday in SmackDown. I'm not even going to sit here and attempt to recap the whole thing, because a lot of it made no fucking sense. But he doesn't want the championship anymore, Rock does. He did a year ago, doesn't want it anymore. Now he wants his soul. Said he wants his soul, and he wants him to be his champion. Well, what does that mean? Cody Rhodes is already the champion. He's been a champion for a year. What does he gain from aligning with The Rock? Absolutely nothing. He said he wants him to go from 1 million followers to 1 billion followers. Like, who gives a fuck? I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this makes absolutely no sense. This is beyond ridiculous. But I've ranted enough about it now and before. Throwing it to you, Mr. Marceau. I'm giving you the gauntlet. What was your take on that bizarre Rock segment on SmackDown last week and tying it into Elimination Chamber? Does he sell his soul to The Rock this Saturday at the pay-per-view?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like I'm holding out hope that there's some kind of good out of this. Like I said, maybe someone else sells their soul, be like the corporate champion or whatever. But it's not going to be Cody. I don't think it should be Cody. It's whatever that was. I'm hoping that there's like a plan, because it was whatever he said didn't really make a lot of sense. It was kind of out of nowhere. So like I said, I guess if someone else sold their soul or became like the corporate Rock champion, okay, it could be interesting depending on who it is.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be Cody.
So who is it? People were mentioning earlier, Punk, Cena. Is it someone in the men's chamber? Because the winner of the men's chamber, let's get into it now, faces Cody at Mania. Is it Drew McIntyre? Is it, I don't think it's Damian Priest. Seth Rollins teased it on Monday. Joined the Authority 11 years ago. Also turned his back on the Shield. I mean, he's been known to do this sort of stuff in the past. Who would you put in that spot? I mean, first of all, I don't think this storyline is necessary. Let's get that out of the way first. They don't need to do this stupid storyline. They don't need it. The Rock does not need to be around at all. But if they are going to do it, who becomes the corporate champion for The Rock? Or at least represents The Rock? Is there anyone that you think makes sense for that spot?
It's tough because it's like, are they going to lean more bloodline way, or are they just going a totally different direction?
I don't think it's bloodline related.
I don't think it is either. I mean, I think Rollins, I feel like Punk doesn't really need it. Neither does Rollins, but at least Rollins, it kind of gets him in a totally different direction, like get away from the freaking Rollins shit and the stupid laugh and everything. If I had to pick anyone in the match, I'd go Rollins. Yeah, I'll go Rollins.
Rollins you would go with. I feel like we already saw that 10 years ago.
Fire it back up. I feel like Punk, I don't need to see Punk like that. I don't think Punk
I'm not
really
walking out there with a suit, but
I'll go Rollins.
Okay, I'm going to say Punk. I think Punk and Cody make sense for Mania. You turn Punk heel. I wanted to see Punk heel anyway. I feel like Punk heel makes sense. I don't need to see Punk aligned with The Rock. I feel like that makes a little sense. I know there's been a lot of chats, so I'm missing a lot of them. I apologize. But Wrestling Fan 13 did say, what if The Rock is building a stable and he recruits both Punk and Cena? I don't think he gets both. You don't turn both of your biggest baby faces heel. I mean, you still have Cody among other people, but I think you would turn one of them, not both. I think if you turn one of them, it would be Punk. I don't think Cena's... I said this before, and we were shitting on Alexis a couple of weeks ago, jokingly, but I still stand by this. Not that you don't turn Cena heel, I just don't see him turning heel when it's his last year in the company and everyone wants to cheer the man. That just doesn't make sense to me. Like, what do you even
more than a year, it makes sense, but he is 1 year. The whole point is, like, the potential of him winning, so you want him to be a babyface the whole time.
Yeah. Well, that being said, you mentioned Seth. I mentioned Punk. I don't think either of those guys are winning the chamber. I'm sticking with Cena. I said he would win the Rumble, and I was wrong on that. I'm happy I was wrong about that. We avoided a Cena win on that show. I don't think we avoid a Cena win here. I think Cena wins the Elimination Chamber. I think he shouldn't, so he can stay in chase mode for a little bit longer. But what do you think? Are you sticking with Seth, or are you going with John Cena or someone else?
I mean, I don't want Cena to win, so I'm going to say no.
I know you don't want to, but what do you think is going to happen is your prediction?
I mean, I feel like I don't want Cena to win, so I'm going to just not even put that in my... Like, I don't think Cody versus Cena at Mania literally couldn't do any little more to move my needle at all.
But what if they leaned more heel with one of them? Would that make a difference?
Probably not, because I don't think Cena's winning, and I don't think he'll beat Cody. So, at least with Punk and Rollins, I think there's a chance that they could beat Cody. I don't think Cena's beating Cody, so
okay.
I feel like it's like a lame duck. Like,
I feel like Cena has a chance.
He has a chance, but I think Rollins and Punk have a better chance.
Okay. What is
Rollins? I don't know. I
Rollins?
feel like Cena, the whole point with Cena is like the whole point's him eventually winning.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you burn that in April when you have the whole year to do it?
No, I agree.
So like he could even, like you said, he could even win and lose to Cody, but like I don't know. I mean, how much longer? I feel like not that I'm like tired of it, but like eventually Cody's got to come to someone that can finally beat him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like we were all saying Orton, but like he's not even in the fucking equation right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, Punk or Rollins, I'd rather win. Like I said, could possibly beat Cody. I mean, Cena's a chance, but like he hasn't even won a singles match in years. Like, why would we all of a sudden just think he's just because he wins this, he's gonna beat Cody? I don't know. I mean, I would say Punk or Rollins. I don't want Cena.
Yeah, I think Cena's happening, but
why? I don't know why. Like
they see it as a big match. That is a big match.
But he's not gonna win.
I think there's a pretty good chance. When I said there's a chance, I think there's a good chance Cena could end Cody's reign on the 1 year that Cody won it, on the 1 year anniversary. I don't want him to. He's going to win it at some point.
Probably, if so, that's probably the worst usage you could use of Cena.
Well, then if Cena if Cena's involved, they have to turn Cena heel. They would have to, because how the fuck can you do this Rock thing? And also, but this Rock thing came together at the last minute. Can we all just acknowledge that? Like, he showed up on Thursday, or he texted Triple H on Thursday saying, hey, can I come to SmackDown on Friday? I got a great idea. This idea is garbage, by the way. But can I show up and do this idea? And he's probably like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't know. I just feel like
depending on how it works, like I said, is it needed? No, I think if you did it correctly, it would make sense.
Okay.
But like I said, I don't think Cena.
Will Rock even be around long enough, like often enough for this shit to matter? That was my question.
No, probably not. But depending on who it is, like I said, I think with someone like Rollins, at least they could get him in a totally different direction than he's in now. Like he's still kind of doing the freaking Rollins stuff, which is terrible. So I'm hopeful. But like Cena, like I said, the whole point of the whole retirement thing is like him chasing it. Him winning in April just makes no sense.
No, I completely agree. I'm just telling you what I think they could and probably will do. I'm completely in agreement with you on that. I don't think they should do it this early. But even Fernando had said this, Ahmed had said this earlier on. Why would you turn Cena heel during his retirement year? I mean, you could. It would be interesting. But like, he's not going to get booed. Do you think he'd get booed? Like, no one's going to fucking boo John Cena at this point. They're going to go there and buy the shirts, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but, I mean, it depends on what happens. If he's out there kicking Cody in the balls, I mean, I think he'd get booed. I mean.
I don't know. Cena's pretty beloved. I'm not sure. It's not like at the Rumble. I'll tell you this. It's not like at the Rumble when he threw Jay out or almost threw Jay out. People were not booing Cena. It was pretty 50-50.
I just don't, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't give him the championship right away. I think that'd be just dumb.
That would be stupid. No, I agree. I think it's way too soon for that. Yeah, Cena hasn't won a match since 2018.
The worst part is he doesn't have to win it. The illusion of him potentially winning it, you could burn it all year. You put him in the Money in the Bank, and like you said, he hasn't even won a match in fucking 7 years. Why are we all suddenly like, oh, now he's going to be Cody now?
Yep. No. I agree with
that. Beat Solo first and then come talk to me.
Ahmed had also said, I feel like Cody is Cena 2.0 and his character, someone's got to be... So if his character, someone's got to be heel, I don't think either of those two are turning heel. Yeah, if we get just Cody and Cena straight up babyface versus babyface, I think a lot of people would find that boring. The build would be boring going to Mania, right?
I don't want to see the match to begin with, let alone if one of them's face or heel or both of them are. I'm out on Cody Cena.
I agree with that. The rest of the card, we'll go back to Elimination Chamber stuff. perhaps after you take off in a few minutes. But I do want to get your other Elimination Chamber predictions here before I have to let you go. Tiffany Stratton, Trish Stratus, Toronto's own, of course, returning to the ring at the pay-per-view versus Nia Jax and Candice LeRae, taking the spot of Rhea and Io on the show. That's happening on Raw next week. So what do you think happens here? Does Trishy time go over, or is it Nia Jax and Candice LeRae?
I would say Stratton and Trish win here. I feel like Tiffany's been laid out at every block at the last couple of weeks. They need to win, so
yeah,
I would say Trishy time win.
Yeah, Trishy time, basic hometown win for the Canadian and the new WWE Women's Champion. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, unsanctioned match. This is going to be fucking great. Great build. I really hope they go all out here. I've said this before. I think Owens has to win this. I think he has to. He hasn't won a pay-per-view match in well over a fucking year, dude. Like, he has to win. And even, Orton comes back and costs him the win. No. That's dumb because Orton might even beat him at WrestleMania. Owens has to win at some point. He's done a lot of losing. He has to win on pay-per-view. Sami Zayn can absorb the loss. It doesn't even matter anyway. Have Kevin Owens win. What do you say, though?
I think Owens needs to win. Not like it's death to him, but like he's lost so much that he finally needs like a credible win.
Yeah.
Beating Sami here. I think Sami loses nothing in defeat, and Kevin needs it more than Sami does right now. Because Sami wins, what do you do with him from here? He doesn't really have a direction. At least Kevin, like you said, if he wins going into him facing Orton, at least there's something there.
So with Sami Zayn, you know who he might face in Mania? They've been teasing it. Karrion Kross. I'm telling you that. I mean, I wouldn't hate that. It would probably be a step down for Sami, but I like that for Karrion Kross if they go in that direction.
For Mania?
I mean, Sami's got to make the card, right?
For WrestleMania.
Yes, WrestleMania.
What do you want at Allegiant Stadium? You're trying to tell me we're going to do Karrion Kross for a Sami Zayn. Stand and deliver, maybe. I mean,
keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
If that happens, I don't know if I'll watch. That's as bad as Jade and Naomi.
Wow, that's as bad as that. Wow, Mr. Marceau hating matches left and right here. I don't know if
there's not really many matches that are really tickling my fancy right now.
Well, I think living Raquel winning the tag titles on Monday basically means that we're getting those two against Io and Dakota at WrestleMania for the women's tag team titles. Rhea wins clean next week is what I'm expecting. And the winner of the Women's Elimination Chamber, Bianca, Naomi, Liv, Bayley, Roxanne, Alexa Bliss, it's going to be Bianca winning. She goes on to face Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. Who do you got winning the Chamber, Mr. Marceau? And does Io Sky somehow factor into this so we get Rhea, Io, and Bianca? Or is it just Rhea and Bianca or someone else?
I mean, Bianca's winning.
Okay, so we at least agree on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Liv Morgan.
No, Liv Morgan's not winning. She just won the belt. She doesn't need to win.
No, I agree.
I guess Io loses and we get Rhea and Bianca.
Oh, say that a bit more enthusiastically for the people in the back.
I guess Bianca wins and we get her and Rhea at WrestleMania 1-on-1.
And what happens to Io Sky?
Hopefully she puts her 2 weeks in and goes to AEW. I don't know. I guess, like I said, I guess we get her and Dakota
for the tag titles. But you don't like that at all.
No.
You hate that match.
No.
Ahmed said he sees Io being factored into a championship match at Mania. Yeah, a title being for the fucking tag titles. So that's what you mean, Ahmed.
I mean, I hope she's in there. I feel like there's she like the promo there on Raw, like you've never beat me, so now we're gonna get her beating Rhea. Rhea's gonna beat her on Raw, and
yep.
She can notch another notch on the belt. She's beating everyone, and she'll face Bianca, and Io will be 7th match on the card. Her and Dakota will beat Liv and Raquel, and the fans will. I'll be sitting on my hands. I hope you'll be sitting on your hands. I don't think anyone will care. And Io will win the tag belts for the fucking 7th time, and no one will care, and we'll move on.
Fernando might be your. Fernando even said in the chat, Sky is being screwed. Justice for Io. We said it last week. You still stand by that?
Understatement. Like I said, worst case scenario to her and Lyra. I'd rather, like I said, if that's a possibility, I'd take it, but I don't think that's happening.
Ahmed said, I see Io being factored into a championship match, and then I said the tag titles, and now he's saying, no, women's world title. No.
I don't think she is. I think it's Bianca Rhea. Unfortunately, 1-on-1. I'm a Io stan over here, and I don't think it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I want Io in that match, but I think Bianca and Rhea, honestly, they do it 1-on-1. It's rushed. I think that's a rushed match. I think they should definitely do it at a different point one-on-one, but I don't think this year is that year. But listen, I'm very curious to see what your anticipation level is for WrestleMania. We'll talk more about it next week. Alexis said as you leave here, Mr. Marceau, week 2 of saying justice for Veer. Come on, Mr. Marceau, justice for Veer.
That's it's almost as bad as Sami Zayn carrying Cross at WrestleMania. Holy shit.
I'm just throwing the best WrestleMania card out here for Mr. Marceau, leaving on a downtrodden note. Be sure to follow him on the Twitter machine at RJ_Marceau. There, I got it right this time, I think. Botch aside.
Justice for EO.
Justice for EO for Mr. Marceau. Think of Mr. Marceau on Saturday when Bianca wins, and again on Monday when Rhea Ripley beats her clean as a sheet, and then EO has to report to tag team division duty. We'll complain more about it next week, Mr. Marceau.
I can see it already. It's going to be like 8:30 on Raw. They'll give us like the perfect time so you know that EO's not going to win either. It'll be like 9:20. Like, oh, we're going to do the tag match now. She'll fucking lose, and I'll be drawing myself off my bed.
Yeah, and then she could lose the tag title match at WrestleMania, too.
Whatever. Go down to whatever. Who cares at this point? Just wrestling. Hey, it's just silly wrestling.
Just silly wrestling, he says. We love Mr. Marceau here on the show. He's got to head out, but I'll leave you out here, Mr. Marceau. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll talk to you in the meantime, and I'll catch you next Thursday here on the show. Follow him on Twitter at RJ_Marceau.
See you later.
See you, brother. Take care. All right, that was Mr. Marceau. We will stay on the line a little bit later on so we can talk some of the questions in the chat. If you guys have any questions to ask, I know it's not hashtag AskGSM Tuesday, but if you got anything else before we wind down here and call it a day, we can answer some stuff in the chat. But I've been seeing all your comments. We had a lot of people in the chat. First of all, I appreciate it so much. We thank you for that. Be sure to like the video if you haven't already. If you're here, haven't already liked the video, what the fuck are you doing? Please like the video. I would appreciate it. Also, hit the bell button to be notified every single time we go live here on the channel. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, ? Probably not going live this Saturday. I have plans before the pay-per-view and then during the pay-per-view on Saturday, so I'm not going live before the show, during the show, after the show this week. Next Saturday, we'll see. It might be, I don't know. We'll circle back to that next week. The Saturday streams are kind of in question right now. I'm not really sure what I want to do with it. It might be like a 2K gameplay type thing. I do want to try streaming on the PS4 at some point. I don't know if it's going to be on a Saturday or on like a Wednesday. I'm still trying to figure that out. I might wait until after I'm done doing 2K24 GM mode, and then when I'm done with that, we might go live with 2K25 on the channel. My first time playing through that at some point. So whatever you guys want to see on Wednesdays or Saturdays, we'll kind of figure that out. But you can always count on WrestleRant Radio every single Thursday here on the YouTube stream, typically around 11 a.m., 12 noon Eastern time, 8 a.m. sometimes. So you never want to miss a new episode every single Thursday here on the YouTube channel and also on the audio platforms, WrestleRant.com, WrestleRantRadio.com. Check out WrestleRantRadio.com, by the way, for all the seasons of the show. You can check out all the episodes dating back to 2013 from when the show debuted. So be sure to check that out as well. And, of course, T-shirts available at ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. And you can find us on the Twitter machine and on, all the usual podcast platforms as well. So let's read through the chat here. I know Ahmed had said earlier, I see KO versus Randy, Sammy versus Cross. I think it was Wrestling Fan who had said, what did he mention? Oh, I could see Randy returning and costing KO the win. That's what I was hoping not to happen, just because I think KO needs the win. Like Wrestling Fan 13 said, KO hasn't won a pay-per-view match since Night of Champions 2023, which was back in May of 2023, by the way, in Saudi Arabia. It's a long fucking time. Wrestling Fan 13 said Nathaniel, he was responding to Nathaniel, but he said, I definitely could see Saraya Page returning to WWE when her AEW contract comes up. I could see it. Honestly, I'm not really sure how much value that she would have at this point. I'm in WWE, especially after the AEW run that she's had. That's been very underwhelming. She came in with a lot of buzz, has not really done much at all, has not had a lot of great standout matches. And I've always enjoyed Saraya Page, big fan of hers, but I think coming back to WWE wouldn't really make the biggest difference, to be quite honest with you. But it's something that I could see happening. RJ threw in the chat again, justice for EO. So justice for EO for Mr. Marceau. Millennial thinks that Bianca Belair is winning. I agree. I do think Bianca Belair is winning this weekend as well. Ahmed said, Veer is still coming. Veer will never stop coming. He will be coming for all of us for the rest of eternity. The Professor said, do you think Logan Paul is going to become the ultimate opportunist of the current era? Yeah, I mean, he'll never be what Edge was in the early 2000s, but I feel like he's the closest thing to an ultimate opportunist that we have currently in WWE. I could see that. Fernando said Mania would be better if we had Veer. I agree. I think Mania needs more Veer. I think if Veer was in a world title match of Mania, to be more specific, Mania would be 10 times better. And then they can make another movie about him after he had the success in baseball. They can make the $1 Million Arm 2, where Veer becomes WWE champion. Fernando had also said, did you watch and enjoy Dynamite? I did. I caught up on Dynamite this morning. That's what I said earlier. I thought the show was good. We'll talk about, or probably me, because Mr. Marceau doesn't really follow the AEW product, but I'll probably do Revolution predictions next week here on the show. So I'll probably do it after Mr. Marceau takes off or at some other point. And yeah, I'll do my predictions for Revolution next week, because that pay-per-view is coming up next Sunday, which I'm looking forward to. I think the overall show on Wednesday was good. I thought the Ricochet Swerve segment was well done. Potential tease there for a Prince Nana heel turn, which would be interesting, turning on Swerve. The MJF and Paige stuff has been really well done so far. The Death Rider stuff has improved, which has been nice. You know, more is less, or less is more, rather, with those guys and everyone involved in that angle. So that's been better. What closed the show? I think it was the International Championship match. I mean, the outcome was never really in doubt, but the match itself was great. Takeshita beating Orange Cassidy to retain. Very obvious outcome, but the match was excellent. And it sets up Takeshita versus Omega for Revolution, which would be awesome. So yeah, I did enjoy Dynamite on Wednesday night. Ahmed mentioned, when is 2K coming out? I forgot. Honestly, I think it comes out, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it comes out mid-March, right? Isn't it like March, like 15th or some shit like that? It might come out even earlier than that. I got to get my copy at some point, but I'm not going to play it as soon as it comes out. I'll probably play it like in early April. So my plan is to, like I said, wrap up GM mode in 2K24 by the end of March. By the time we get to episode 100 of that will be end of March. And then in early April, I might start going live with GM mode in 2K here on YouTube, as opposed to just filming the videos. I might go live with it as well. And then you guys can join me, and we can play GM mode in 2K25. So something to keep an eye out for. That was something I was kind of batting the idea around for. Nathaniel said, I'm excited for Revolution next Sunday. I think Christian cashes in on Cope, and later after Cage loses, they become a heel tag team. I know that you've mentioned that before, Nathaniel. I don't see that happening that imminently. I think there's a pretty big chance Christian cashes in, and I love Christian. I don't know if that's the end game to this Moxley angle, but if we can cut it short and end his reign soon, even if it's Christian, I can't complain too much. Wrestling Fan 13 said, how long does everyone think the Elimination Chamber show runtime will be? I'm guessing 2 to 3 hours. He also said, Grandma, you were attending the WrestleMania 41 press conference. As far as the first question goes, I think it'll be probably closer to 3 hours. I think even with a 4-match card, these shows typically go 3 hours. I know the Rumble was like fucking 4+ hours, but that was because, you know, the Rumble matches were like an hour and a half each. They were extremely long. So I think Chamber, even with 2 chambers, will probably go 4 hours. Because you got to remember, too, The Rock's on the show. And that Rock segment alone last week on SmackDown went 30 fucking minutes. If you include, like, the entrances and shit, and Cody's going to come out there, which that alone, you know, takes 5 minutes for the entrances. So it's probably going to be close to 3+ hours on Saturday. Am I attending the press conference for Mania 41? Yes, I should be there. It's always up in the air. I'm definitely going to Mania. It's always weird how, you know, they invite certain people and then certain people aren't allowed in. I've been to everyone so far, so until they invite someone else and give my spot to someone else, I should be there. So keep an eye out for me on the YouTube press conference stream, which would be Saturday and Sunday. So I hope to be there. Fernando said, how about a sing-along Saturdays where you just sing requested songs all stream long? I'd probably lose my voice. That's not a bad idea, though. Definitely not a bad idea. We're up to 10 likes. If we can get some more likes in the chat, should I don't want to say if we get to 15 likes, I'll sing something today. I'll probably save that for Tuesday's #AskGSM or whatever stream we do before then. I feel like that would just be too hectic. So, yeah, maybe you could do sing-alongs. I mean, I don't know. It depends. I could see here on my side, I could set a goal for shit. So maybe if we set a like goal or a super chat goal or something, we can either do a sing-along thing or fucking, I don't know, tell stories. I am considering just doing a stream where we just bullshit and tell stories and stuff. So maybe at some other point we could do that. Wrestling Fan, it all depends on your guys' interest if that's something you want to see. Wrestling Fan 13 did say March 14th is when WWE 2K25 Standard Edition releases. All right, good to know. So that's in a little over 2 weeks. That would be 2 weeks from tomorrow. Fernando said Veer will be coming forever. Yes, he will be. Alexis said Jamie just met Charles Robinson. She's talking about Jamie Lee Mack, an alum here, a WrestleRant Radio alum. He was actually in the stream in the chat a couple days ago. Charles Robinson is very nice. That's cool. I got to meet him. We ran into Charles at the Superstore over Mania last year, and he actually made a little line. It was completely free too. He was just in the store taking pictures with fans, and he was really fucking nice. He was actually like one of the first referees I was familiar with because he was refereeing when I first started watching in 2008, and he was involved in that Edge Taker Mania 24 main event when he made the fucking dart down the ramp at Mania 24. So yeah, Robinson is great. Ahmed said, I got to give AEW props. AEW has been producing some good TV as of late. Keep it up. I agree. I think the shows they've been putting together as of late have been really, really good. I've been enjoying them. Some better than others, but I mean, it beats the hell out of that show they were doing before the Rumble. When I was flying on Rumble week, I did not watch Dynamite live. I watched it in the airport, and that show is fucking abysmal. Dynamite's been better since then. Collision's also been better. And I'm looking forward to Revolution. So maybe they had to hit their rock bottom, no pun intended, before they could do better content. I don't know. But something had to be done because that show before the Rumble was just atrocious. Fernando had said, I love seeing Willow get her revenge. I loved it. Yeah, that was cool. I was slightly disappointed, though. Willow getting her revenge was well done, and it does get Willow on the show. But at the same time, I was hoping that Marina Shafir would be taken out by Beth Phoenix, Adam Copeland's wife. That just made too much sense to me not to do. I mean, how does she came into the aid of Edge in WWE with Maurice. She came to Edge's aid with Rhea Ripley, a couple of years ago. How could she not come to his aid with Marina Shafir? Again, I love Willow. I thought that was well done. It made sense. But you would think Beth would have been the one to come to Cope's aid and not Willow. But I know what they were doing with Willow and Marina Shafir before recently, so I know how it makes sense. But still, it would have been nice to say. Nathaniel said, maybe at the end of this year we can get a reunion with Cope and Cage, and they win the tag titles. Sorry if I talk a lot about it. I would just love to see them win the tag titles. Yeah, I could see that. I think they will. I think before Cope calls it a career, we will see them team up and probably win the tag titles. I mean, Tony Khan is a mark at the end of the day. We all are, but like him especially. I think he can't pass up the opportunity to put the tag titles on those guys. I just can't say when it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. He also asked, what if Beth Phoenix helps Cope at Revolution? She could, but the whole thing with the Marina Shafir thing was that Willow took her out last night with the Concerto. So why would she be back as soon as Revolution? That kind of makes that completely pointless if she's back at the pay-per-view. So I thought so, but they took out Marina Shafir last night. Dax asked, how's your day going? It's going well. It's going great with you guys here in the chat. Thank you for asking. Alexa said earlier, maybe we could do a fantasy booking right now. Fantasy booking for what exactly? Right now, I mean, there's really nothing to fantasy book. We already kind of talked about Elimination Chamber predictions. So, nothing really to fantasy book right now. Wrestling Fan 13 said, Graham singing Cope's theme song, that would be something. Yeah, if we get the support in the chat with the likes and whatnot, maybe at some point we could definitely do that. Maybe not today, but on a different stream. I'll save the sing-alongs for a different stream. Probably not today, but maybe for the next stream that we do. Fernando asked, which Mania was the first that you attended live and how was the experience? 33 was my first Mania. Always wanted to go to Mania. I wanted to go to Mania 29 because it was close. Obviously, being from the Northeast, that was in New Jersey. I'm glad I didn't because that show sucked. MetLife was not great at 35, so I'm glad I did not waste my first Mania there. It was in Orlando, 33. I mean, the actual show was kind of hit or miss, but the Hardy Boys returning made that weekend entirely worth it. It was already worth it anyway, but one of the best experiences I've ever had. The show itself was good. I've been to far better shows than that, but the experience itself was incredible. And I don't think it's very difficult for your first ever Mania to be topped. The first Mania that you attend is usually the best one. Maybe not from a show standpoint, but just taking in the live like pyro and the atmosphere and everything that goes on around Mania weekend. It's hard to pass up. But yeah, it was a great time. That was back in 2017, 8 years ago, which is crazy. Wrestling Fan 13 said, I feel like once AEW got rid of Rampage, the weekly content has improved. The less is more approach is always the best direction to go in. I completely agree, and I also agree in the Rampage thing. They got rid of Rampage, which was a completely pointless show. I think it was spreading Tony Khan a little too thin. He's already spread too thin anyway. But you get rid of Rampage, you focus more so just on the two important shows, and it's made those shows better. Collision has been more focused. Dynamite's been more focused. It's been encouraging to see. Fernando said, maybe we have not seen Beth because she's still under a Legends contract with WWE still. I don't think so. I don't think she is. I had read maybe a couple of months ago that she wasn't under contract with WWE anymore. So, I mean, maybe, but I had read that she wasn't. So I don't think that's the holdup anymore. Ahmed said, Cope wouldn't be my first choice, but someone other than Mox should be AEW World Champion. I agree. I love Cope. But the guy's 50 years old. He probably should not be world champion. Maybe they can give him the belt like for a minute before Christian beats him for it. But then again, we already saw that like a year ago when they did that with the TNT title. It would just feel, repetitive if they did that again. So I wouldn't really be a fan of that personally. But, Christian as champion would be cool. But I just feel like we've had the heel champion thing for a while. Now with Moxley and the Death Rider stuff has sucked. Christian might be a little bit better. It would be cool to see Christian as world champion at least one more time. We haven't seen it in well over a decade, and I love Christian, so I can't really complain. Actually, that's not true. He was TNA world champion a couple of years ago. I just don't know if that's the answer to their woes right now in the main event scene, but it's an option. I can't say I would necessarily hate it depending on how it was handled. Dax said, do you feel like Damian is being over-pushed? No, I feel like he's being pushed just the right amount. He's organically over. He's very good. I think Damian is great. I'm glad they've made a new star out of him through the Judgment Day stuff, and he's a Money in the Bank winner, World Heavyweight Champion, U.S. Champion, Tag Team Champion. He's had a lot of success, and I think Damian is great. So I'm really happy he's been as successful as he has been. And then they ended up giving him the World Heavyweight Championship. They could have very easily had him cash in that contract unsuccessfully, but because they had him cash in successfully and he had a good reign from Mania to SummerSlam, he became a star. So, no, I don't think he's being over-pushed. I don't really want to see Damian and Drew again at WrestleMania. I'd rather see Drew and LA Knight or Drew and Cena. I don't know what you do with Damian, Damian and Shinsuke, I've said, I feel like would make sense. I know you guys were talking earlier about all the multi-man matches at Mania. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of doing so many multi-man matches with the mid-card belts at Mania. I just feel like Damian and Nakamura one-on-one would make sense. Wrestling Fan 13 said, could maybe we fantasy book WrestleMania 42? Not a bad idea, but what would WrestleMania, I don't know. I could not even tell you what WrestleMania 41 is going to look like, let alone WrestleMania 42. We do know Cena will not be on it. We know Goldberg is retiring this year. So those are two names that would not be a part of it. I do not think Brock would be back by then. It's possible, but let's say he's not. You shouldn't have to rely on all the old timers anyway, but I'm just saying, who are we working with here, I mean, I'll say Rock and Roman just because I'm not really, optimistic that we're getting that match at all at this point. It's just they've delayed it so much. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? They've delayed it so much. It's getting to the point where it's hard to care. But I feel like, let's say Rock and Roman, Cody and Randy, I feel like we'll get before Mania next year. I could see Cody and Punk, if they don't do it at Mania this year, they could do it at Mania next year, maybe. I don't know. Jake and Fatu and Roman Reigns is another option. I think Breaker and Fatu at Mania next year would be fucking amazing. So there's a lot of matches you could do at Mania 42. Fernando said Rampage was trash. It was. Rampage, after the first 6 months, just became completely skippable television. I'm glad they canceled it so I don't have to watch it or review it anymore. So that helps me out a lot too. Wrestling Fan 13 said, I think Beth is just being happy, focusing on being a mom right now. Yeah, I think so too, but I also thought, she's been a mom for well over a dozen years now, but she still came back for a few one-offs in WWE, so I thought she might come back for a one-off in AEW. It could still happen. I'm still confident it will at some point. I'm just surprised it's not in this storyline because it would have made sense. But, Willow's the AEW original, quote-unquote, so it makes more sense for her to be representing Cope, I guess, in that storyline than fucking... than Beth, which would really just benefit Cope, but, maybe at some point. Fernando said Veer should come to AEW and beat Moxley in his debut and take AEW to the next level. I agree. He should. And Fernando also said Veer versus Cody Mania 42. That's a match I can get behind. Nathaniel said, I think Cope will win a championship this year, either tag or if they really want to see him win a world championship, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the world title, but it could happen next weekend. The tag titles, maybe. I could also see him getting back the TNT title because he never really was beaten for that belt. He had to vacate it due to injury. And then he left off in his injury layoff after that. So very possible that, we could always win another belt, win that belt back at some point later on this year. Ahmed said, prayers everyone for Shinsuke to lose the U.S. title tomorrow night. Seriously, this Nakamura run has been brutal, dude. It's been a complete fucking waste of time. Please get the belt off of him. Please give it back to LA Knight or Damian Priest or someone. I would only be okay with Shinsuke retaining if we get Knight and McIntyre at Mania and Nakamura and Priest. That is it. That is the only way I'm okay with Shinsuke losing, or rather winning tomorrow night and holding onto the belt until WrestleMania. Because his reign, he has had one title defense in almost 4 fucking months, 3 or 4 months. That is just inexcusable. Nathaniel said, I'm not sure how we'll get Rock versus Roman next year. Yeah, at this point, who even knows? Who even knows? It looks like Rock has moved on. Even though he said he wanted to face Roman last year, he said that in his promo last week. So then why would he not want to face him this year? Stupid thing. It's stupid logic. And then Nathaniel also said, I won't be mad if Cope wins his TNT title back. Yeah, I mean, he was having a good TNT title reign working with the House of Black and doing the Cope Open challenges. I thought that was fun. Maybe bringing that back, I think would be, it would have potential. So we'll probably wrap up there, guys. Like I said earlier, we will be back next Thursday here on WrestleRant Radio with Mr. Marceau. Time TBA kind of depends on the schedule. It's either earlier on the Thursday morning, around 8 a.m. Eastern Time, or 11 Eastern Time, or noon Eastern Time. So just keep an eye out. But like I always say, like these videos, first of all, helps us out a lot. And second of all, subscribe to the channel. And third of all, turn on the notifications to be notified every single time we go live here on the channel, including on Thursdays. So that way you'll never miss a stream. I scheduled this one far enough in advance, which helped. That, kind of helped people know, when the show is going live. But sometimes I don't set it up until late, so just keep an eye out. But we will be live here on the channel before then. Probably with hashtag will very likely be the next time that I'm going to be live with you guys on Tuesday. I might do a surprise stream at some point before then. Probably not. Saturday's going to be busy with the pay-per-view and whatnot. I'm doing work afterwards, so no stream on Saturday, but very likely we'll be back on Tuesday with hashtag AskGSM. So you can catch us back there for sure. And Ahmed had also said Melo is overdue for a U.S. Championship run, but sadly is in a tag team with The Miz. Who asked for that? Not a single fucking soul, Ahmed. Nobody. And I love The Miz. No one fucking asked for that. That is just garbage. Thank you, WrestlingFan13 said. Have a great day, Graham, and everyone in the chat. Thank you, Wrestling Fan. I appreciate that. Thank you, D Professor, for joining us. Said happy Thursday, buddy. With the handshake emoji. I always think of Predator every time I see that. Oh, that's this. This is just a basic handshake. But thank you, D Professor. I think you're a fresh face here in the chat, so great to see you. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for joining us along with everyone else here in the chat. Throughout the last hour and a half. But like I said, I already got the plugs out of the way. New episodes of WrestleRant Radio every single Thursday. WrestleRant.com. WrestleRantRadio.com if you want the audio version, and all the usual podcast platforms. And you can also find me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant and on X as well. Or rather, on X at WrestleRant, and Mr. Marceau as well at RJ_Marceau. Got it right that time. Thank you, Ahmed. Said W stream as always. And Fernando said, excellent stream as always. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Always great to see you. And Wrestling Fan 13 said, Graham, maybe I'll see you in a 1v1 match in WWE 2K24. We'll see. I probably won't be playing. I'll be busy the next couple of days. But the next time I turn on the system, I will certainly accept your friend request. And maybe one of these days we can play in 2K24. That wouldn't be a bad idea. But with all that being said, guys, let's see if this outro works. It should. There it is. Awesome. Have an awesome Thursday, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
Join Graham GSM Matthews and RJ Marceau every Thursday as they run down their weekly wrestling rants, offer expert analysis, host exclusive interviews, and more. Subscribe today on all your favorite podcast platforms and never miss an episode of WrestleRant Radio.